Everybody else. So, as I mentioned yesterday, we spoke about overcoming the fear of change. What are we talking about today? So today I'm going to move on from there. And again, all of this is about Pesach, and we want to talk about kind of, we're getting out of our slavery and into freedom. What does that mean to us? How do we understand that? So I'm going to start, we're going to get to a few different ideas about this. And I'm going to start with talking a little bit about how we're feeling right now. All right. This is something important because I'm getting a lot of messages, and I'm sure many of you are having these conversations with people about, people are telling me, I don't know what to do. I just feel sad. I'm feeling sad about the things that I had wanted to do, sad about my plans, sad about my job loss, sad about all these things. And people just wake up feeling heavy and sad, feeling scared, just uncertain. There's so much of that. So I'm going to take a few minutes to talk about this, and obviously we'll see how it all connects to the message of today, which is getting out of slavery and into our own freedoms, how it relates, from Pesach to our lives right now. So there is a concept in life that's called grief, and I'm sure you've heard of grief. Grief is something we experience when we lose something, lose someone that is very near and dear to us, somebody that we love, and you lose them, you grieve them. And what's happening right now is actual loss. There are so many things that people have lost. I'm not even talking chas v'shalom if there are actual people in your lives that you've lost, which unfortunately, at this moment, almost everyone knows of someone at least, right? So I'm not only talking about that. There are so many other things that we have lost. And I think part of the problem is that if we find ourselves feeling sad or disappointed for whatever it is, there are so many disappointments. You may have lost your job. Your spouse might have lost their job. You lost normal life as you knew it. You may have lost some of your dreams. You may have lost social relationships. You may feel like you're grieving so many things, and those are all totally normal. Even just being able to go to the supermarket or to go to the supermarket without a mask on your face. These things are you look at them and you're like, what happened to my life? And it was so sudden. These are sudden losses. Nobody was prepared for this. There are other natural disasters that happen in life, hurricanes and all these things. They're sad, they're hard, but you could prepare for them. They're coming. This is the next level. And it's really, really difficult. Weddings. How many people are grieving the loss of their wedding? They have a little backyard ceremony, which, by the way, are beautiful. They're absolutely beautiful. And truthfully, one of my daughters, who's really an introvert, is a little bit jealous. She's like, I actually want a wedding like that. So there's something beautiful about it. But first of all, when you were expecting a normal, big, fun, beautiful wedding, and then you have a little, half-hour ceremony in the backyard in winter coats with a few people standing 10 feet apart, this is a loss. This is a real loss, whether it's your wedding or your child's wedding or your sibling's wedding, whatever it is. These are real losses. The fact that you can't see an older parent or an older grandparent. And we really need to understand that these are actual losses, and we're allowed to grieve for them, and we should be grieving for them. So we're going to talk a little bit about grief, what it is from a human perspective, from a Jewish perspective. And yet, even though I see people saying those weddings are beautiful, I love them. Every single video I see of a garage wedding, I cry. I'm like, that's so beautiful. It really is. But it doesn't mean that it doesn't come with a loss, and that it doesn't come with a crushed dream or fantasy. So these are things that we need to be compassionate about and for, whether they're for ourselves or for other people, to understand, and a lot of people are yelling, at people who aren't, really understanding social distancing that much and maybe showing up at these weddings. And I understand that it's wrong, and everybody, we need to social distance, but we also need to have a little bit of compassion and understand how hard it must be for these people to suddenly not have a wedding, right? This is and sometimes people make choices when they're in this moment of grief, And there are different stages of grief. And one of those stages can be, which is the very first stage of grief. If you know, what are the stages of grief over here? If you've experienced it, or if you are, let me know, by the way, are you experiencing any sort of grief right now? Let me know. And also I want to hear what kind of grief are you experiencing right now? Okay? Because the very, very first step in grief is the stage of denial. When you deny that it actually happened, which is happening a lot right now. How could this be? What just happened? Right? It's this question that people wake up with every morning. What just happened to my world? What just happened to my life? That is number one, denial. And sometimes we react when we're in that stage of denial. We might not be reacting very rationally because it's a very natural, normal stage of grief. Okay? Like really what just happened? And sometimes we're in denial for the present. Sometimes we're in denial for the future. Also, it can't be this is really going to happen like for a few more weeks, right? This isn't really going to happen. And we kind of hold on to that denial for the future too. So let's understand that this really is a loss. And you know what? You can't compare losses. For you to sit and think, well, okay, so I lost my social life. How can I compare that to people who are losing their families? I have no right to feel sad or disappointed. And when we don't understand that it's okay to feel this grief, and again, we'll learn how to navigate through it right now. But if we don't understand that it's okay to feel that, then we get upset at ourselves for feeling that grief, for feeling that sadness, and that leads to punishment. Then we feel, okay, this isn't right. I kind of want to punish myself for this. That leads to us feeling guilty about having those feelings. You know, we are the first generation that has feelings about feelings. Like, it used to be, and probably in a healthy relationship with ourselves, it would be you feel something, you acknowledge what you feel, you deal with it, and then you can move on from it. But now we're in this space where we have feelings about feelings. Oh, that's sadness. I shouldn't be feeling sad right now. Why am I feeling sad right now? That doesn't make any sense. Why am I feeling sad right now? Why am I feeling angry? Why am I feeling scared? And we kind of like develop these emotions towards emotions, right? And that's what enables us to kind of fall down in the emotion, to let the emotion take over, to let the emotion take control of our lives, because I don't deserve to feel that. And this could come from many different reasons of why we feel we don't deserve to feel. But what we need to understand is we can't compare losses. Just because someone might be having a greater loss than you doesn't mean your loss isn't completely legitimate. I lost my father. My father died a few years ago. That's sad. That's a real loss. But that doesn't mean I'm not allowed to be disappointed right now in not being able to see some of you in person. I'm gonna have to do this virtually. I'm giving sometimes up to 5 Zoom classes a day, back-to-back Zoom classes constantly with students. It's disappointing that I can't see them in real life. It doesn't negate the fact that I had a real loss one time, right? And so my loss doesn't negate your loss. Your loss doesn't negate my loss, okay? Major, macro, and micro losses are all completely legitimate. And we need to understand that that's okay and that's normal. It's not just okay, it's normal. Normal to feel loss and sadness and disappointment for whatever it is that you're experiencing right now, okay? So, and this is why it's important to understand that this is grief, because if we don't look at it as grief, if we don't really understand that this is grief, then again, we start judging ourselves and we start kind of punishing ourselves and not allowing ourselves, and especially when we do have a good hashkafa and we understand emunah and bitachon, we kind of say, come on, if you had real emunah and bitachon, you wouldn't feel this way. You shouldn't be feeling sad. You should have bitachon. Bitachon doesn't mean don't feel sad. Bitachon doesn't mean that your problems don't exist. Bitachon means, yes, my problems exist. and I can feel sad about those problems. But I know that I have a God who is stronger than my problems, who is more powerful than my problems, and he's going to help me out of it. We like to say that Hashem only gives us things that we can handle. Now, many of you are probably listening to this. Many of you probably have heard this before. Hashem only gives us things we can handle. I'll be very honest with you. I don't think Hashem only gives us things that we can handle. I think he's constantly giving us things that are really above what we can handle. Just right above that handle bar of ability, right, that we have, right above it. And why is he doing that? He's giving us things that are right above what we can handle, and he's telling us, sweetie, I know this is right above what you think you can handle, and maybe it's right above what you've been handling till now, but I want you to stretch. Now is the time to stand on your tippy toes, or maybe even give a little jump. Just jump up a little bit above what you're used to. And you can grab onto it. You can hold it. You can reach it. I know you can. So sometimes when we think it's a moment to stress, it's in fact a moment to stretch. Not about stressing, it's about stretching. And Hashem says, I'm holding it right up here for you because I know you can reach it. You might not believe in yourself, but I believe in you. And here's what we need to understand. Hashem doesn't only give us things we can handle, but he helps us handle the things we were given. Got that? Hashem doesn't only give us things we can handle, but he helps us handle the things we were given. And here's what we need to understand, okay? It's okay to feel disappointment and you can still have bitachon while you have that disappointment. It doesn't conflict. It's not a contradiction. And I think sometimes that doesn't allow us to properly accept our feelings and our grief because we think that might be against what Hashem wants from us, because that means I don't have bitachon. So let's put all of this together and understand where this fits in. So remember, emotions are normal, they're healthy, they do not come with guilt. If you acknowledge them, you own them, right? That's how they work. You acknowledge them, they own them. If you try to fight your feelings, if you say, oh, fear is here, oh, goodbye fear, I don't want fear, bitachon, 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 no more fear. Magic, I don't feel them anymore. But if you spend your time doing that, if you spend your time fighting it, if you spend your time suppressing it, then in the end, your feelings actually end up owning you. Your feelings, what you resist, persists. You throw it out the door, you slam the door, it comes in through a window. We can't resist them. We can't suppress them. We cannot fight them. The entire package of ourselves, everything about us, has to be our friend. There can't be a part of me that I don't accept or don't embrace or don't love. I can't fight against any part of myself because then I become my enemy. And then my life becomes my enemy. And it's really difficult to live with your enemy. It's really difficult to negotiate with your enemy. You practically can't. So we could spend our entire lives being angry and bitter and resentful towards ourselves, towards Hashem, towards the people around us. And we're going to be constantly fighting ourselves, fighting our personalities, fighting our bodies, fighting our emotions. We have to make it our friend. So you're feeling that fear, you're feeling that sadness, you're feeling that disappointment, welcome it into your life. Good morning, sadness. How are you today? Talk to me, sadness. What are we sad about today? Good morning, disappointment. Welcome to my life. Say it with a smile. Embrace it. Learn to love the disappointment. Make it a part of you. Okay? It cannot be your enemy. It has to be your friend. Got that? Okay. I still would love to hear the things that you feel you're grieving. By the way, share it with me. Thank you, Mayan. Thank you, Leica Searer, is that how you pronounce your name? I'm so happy you're all joining us. Thank you. Thank you, Cats9693. You're super welcome. Thank you. Okay, so remember all of this, okay? Understand how grief works and that grief is okay. In fact, Hashem teaches us how to grieve. And this is what I want to talk to you about right now. Hashem teaches us how to grieve. I'm sorry, I'm going to take a drink. 1 minute. I'm not saying a bracha because I already drank. Okay. Hashem teaches us how to grieve. Malki, I'm so sorry that you're grieving the loss of your father. I really am. How long has it been? So, don't know why I can't clear my throat today. Hashem teaches us how to grieve. He gives us the concept of Shiva. The first day after you lose someone, the first day or two is the most intense time of grieving. And everyone knows on a normal Shiva situation, not what we're going through right now, most people who aren't closely related or close friends that are sitting Shiva don't go to visit them the first day or two, right? Because those are the most intense days of grieving. Then we have a week of Shiva. During that week is also intense grieving, but of course a little bit less than the first day or two. Then we have the Shiva's over. But then there's an entire month of Shloshim, where the people experiencing the grief are still experiencing a certain level of grief, right? Still no haircuts, shaving, all of that. But the level of grief goes down a little bit. And then we have a year of Avelos, an entire year where you're still grieving. No music, no weddings, no buying new clothing or anything. You're still grieving. But we're supposed to be lowering the level of grief, moving back into our new normal. Hashem helps us adjust into a new normal of life. Yes, feel it. But don't let the feelings control you. You control the feelings, right? We have step by step by step on how we should be grieving. And this is just one example. This is just one example of the ability of how we control our emotions. So here's what we need to understand. Yeah, it's there. We're supposed to feel it. There's a mitzvah that we have to visit people in their grief, to console people in their grief. We should be doing that now too, because this is actual grief and any connections we can make. This is, we need to form these connections. They can't be physical connections, but what's even more important than the physical are the emotional connections. Support each other. Everybody, we should be supporting each other because everyone is grieving in their own way. Again, everyone's grief is different and everyone is experiencing different losses right now. But one person's loss does not negate another person's loss. Major losses, macro losses, micro losses are all losses, and we all have a right to grieve for each one of them. But let's talk about how do emotions work right now? And I see some of your questions coming in, and I'm going to get to them soon, okay? I'm going to go back in a few minutes. If you beat yourself up for feeling sad or feeling disappointed or feeling scared or whatever you're considering a negative emotion right now, and you beat yourself up for it, you fight it, and you feel guilty for it, then what you're doing is you are making yourself feel even lower. You're creating a vicious cycle. You make yourself feel worse about yourself, and you put yourself in an even worse place emotionally than you started off with. And you could bring yourself down to a really, really delicate emotional state. Emotions, listen to this carefully. Emotions need motion. Emotions, they cannot become stagnant. They can't be dormant. They can't just sit. And we cannot just sit inside that emotion being sucked in by it. We cannot just hide inside of the emotion. Emotions need motions. They need to move. We need to learn. We need to be able to stand in the emotion and give it a push. We need to be able to be the ones who control that emotion. They need to evolve. And we evolve with those emotions and through those emotions. Again, that's exactly what Judaism teaches us about grieving. It moves. There's movement there. And here is what I want to talk to you. This is what I want to talk to you about right now. Okay? First of all, I'm going to get there in a second because here's where I'm making the connection to Pesach. But before we get there, I just want to go through the steps of grief with you because I told you I was going to do that, okay? What are the steps of grief? So we have the first step, which is denial. Many people go through denial. Some people are going through it right now. I can't believe this is really happening. What just happened to my world, to my life? What's going on? What just happened to my wedding? What is happening? And we don't fully understand it. Then the next stage after denial very often leads to anger. Whoa, this is what just happened? So I just didn't have a wedding? I just lost my business? I just can't see my grandparents again for who knows how long? Really? This is what just happened? And we can start feeling very angry about that. Then comes the stage of bargaining. We're trying to make all these bargains. Well, okay, so if I social distance the right way, then maybe everything will be okay, right? Okay, we start making these bargains, okay? And we bargain with Hashem, and we bargain with our parents, and we bargain with the world. We're just bargaining with the universe. We're bargaining with COVID-19. Okay, bargaining. Then comes the stage of depression. Then we start feeling like, oh, I don't know. Even if I social distance, there's still people dying. There's still things happening. What can I do? Like, I can't control any of this. And then comes that, that sadness that comes along with it. Are you experiencing any of this? Let me know. Are you experiencing this? Because it's important for people to see that they're not alone. Many, many people are going through this, right? What comes after this sadness? Anybody know? After this depression, after the sadness comes Netflix. All day, all night. No, I'm kidding. No, I'm not kidding. But I'm kind of kidding. The next stage is, yes. People are feeling this. People are experiencing this. Guys, you're not alone. Look how everybody is experiencing the same thing. All of this, everybody is feeling this. It's okay. It's normal. You should be feeling something. To deny, if there are people who are staying in the denial stage, just denying it, denying all the feelings, denying everything, that's not healthy. It's not healthy either. It's okay to experience all of this. The next stage in classic grief, Shalama says, I think I started earlier than most people, so I'm up to acceptance, but it's still a roller coaster. It's not neatly divided. There are always ups and downs. Brilliant words over here, Shalamis. That's exactly it. It's not, you can't wrap anything up in a beautiful little package with frills and sparkles with a pretty pink bow. We can't wrap up life in a pretty pink bow. There are no neat packages, right? That's life. That's what it is. We're always figuring it out. We're always figuring ourselves out, how we fit into it, how we can grow from it. What is this? That's life. Let's get to the last stage of classic grief. And then I'm going to add in one more stage for you, okay? So classic grief stages. We have denial, we have anger, we have bargaining, we have depression and sadness, and then we have acceptance. Now, some of us have accepted this sooner than others. Some of us, went very quickly through this. You could have gone through all the stages in one day. That can be. You can go through the stages in one day. Immediate denial, a little bit of anger, a little bit of bargaining, a little bit of sadness. And then all of a sudden we say, all right, but now I have to accept. That's okay too. Everybody grieves in a different way. Okay? There's no neat package for grief. But at some point, we all have to end up in acceptance. We all have to end up there because that's the only way to move forward. The only way to really move forward and the only way to get through the day in the healthiest way possible, in the sanest way possible, is through that level of acceptance. This is the life that Hashem gave me. Now this goes through anything that we're going through in life, and goes through on a collective level what we're all experiencing right now. I think I've said this before, but I'm going to say it one more time very quickly. We've all had disappointments, whether in our regular lives or in what we're going through right now. We're disappointed. That's okay. Things don't always go the way we want them to in life. Some of us have huge disappointments. Some of us are disappointed in big decisions we've made in life, in the person we chose to marry, in the children we've had. They were not our choice, but these are the kids we got. We're disappointed, maybe. We had different expectations. Some of us are disappointed where we live, in the size home we have, in our jobs, in our lack of jobs, whatever it is. But all of us, we know, or most of us, are disappointed in the lives we're living right now, in not being able to do the things we normally do and want to do. So we have all spent so many years of our lives creating a vision, a plan A for ourselves. This is my plan A. This is what my life is going to be. And we planned it out from beginning to end. And then life happens. And so many times those plans are not in our life. And we're living a different life than the one we expected. And here's what we need to understand. We might not living our plan A. You might be feeling like you're living your plan B or C, we got all the way to Z. You can choose any letter you want. Any letter works. But we have two options. Two options. We can either choose to live life as if it's a plan B life, and we can wake up every morning and say, seriously, this life again? This is not the life I asked for. This isn't what I ordered. This is not what I chose in the vending machine. I didn't get my order. I don't like this. This is difficult. This is hard. This is painful. This is challenging. This is different. And I can spend my life being bitter, being angry, being resentful, being angry at Hashem, being angry at the people around me, blaming everybody around me for this life, blaming Hashem, blaming everyone for this life that I was given. I can live like a victim of this life. Or there's another option. I can wake up in the morning and say, this life again? I didn't ask for this life. It wasn't exactly what I wanted. But this is the life that Hashem gave me. And therefore, this is the life that I need, even if it's not the life that I wanted. It's the life that I need. And my plan A is completely irrelevant. Completely irrelevant. Because my plan B is really Hashem's plan A. Got that? If this is the life that Hashem chose for me, then whatever I had as a plan A, that wasn't really a plan A. Because if I'm living this life right now, then my plan A was completely irrelevant. Because my plan B, what I'm calling a plan B, is really Hashem's plan A. This is the life we're supposed to be living. So yeah, you can be a little disappointed, but we need to understand how to make that disappointment grow. And I'm going to tell you something right now that I want you to remember. And then we're going to get to the last step, okay? We're still in acceptance right now. And I want you to remember this carefully. We can come out of this. We can come out of what's happening right now with post-traumatic stress. Or we can come out of this with post-traumatic growth. It's our choice. Post-traumatic stress or post-traumatic growth. How do we get to the level of growth? How do we get out of the stress and into growth? And here is the 6th step of grief that might not be spoken about normally, but I'm going to tell you what this is. The 6th level of grief, the 6th stage of grief is meaning. We have to find meaning in this. You're feeling sad, you're feeling disappointment, you're feeling scared. There's a reason for that. There's a reason for that. There has to be something deeper in that. There has to be some level of meaning. And we need to find the meaning while we're in it right now. We need to find The small pieces of meaning. We have a choice. We can choose to focus on the small pieces of stress, or we can choose to focus on the small pieces of meaning. I would like to hear from you. What have you discovered? What kind of meaning do you feel right now in this moment? Share with me, share with all of us. What have you been learning from what you're experiencing, from what you're feeling? I'll give you a little idea of just some of the things I've been experiencing. First of all, so the Awakened family says to become a change agent. Good one. To become an agent for change in this world. One thing, even just small little things, I'm not even talking about big concepts yet because we need to work our way up. So first of all, if you go outside at all, or if you look outside, or there are families. So I don't know where you live. Obviously, I live in a warmer climate, so I do see people outside, in their backyards. I see people in my neighborhood, on my street, home playing with their children in the backyard. When I go for little walks, in the evening, I usually go for a walk around my block. I hear noise, or sometimes in the morning. Sometimes I go early morning. I hear everybody playing outside. I hear parents and children playing together, laughing together. This normally doesn't happen. Everyone's so busy. Everyone sends their kids to after-school programs. I never heard laughter and playing together coming from these homes. People are spending more time with their children. I know in my home as well, but I'm saying even when I'm noticing there's more of a neighborhood, everybody walks through the streets, and anyone who sees each other, I don't know half the people's names, especially I'm new here. I don't know anybody's names, but everybody's, hi, how you doing? How you holding up? Did you find any eggs? Where are they selling eggs these days? There's conversation with neighbors that never happened before. I'm holding on to those pieces of meaning. That's incredible, right? The bonds that are being formed. I am giving, I don't even know how many Zoom classes a day, sometimes 4 or 5, sometimes 10, nonstop connection. I'm doing this live every morning. I would not have come on live, and the amount of connections I'm making with all of you through these lives, I wouldn't have come on every morning if it weren't for this. Every morning is a big commitment. But I said, I'm going to do this because this is what everybody needs now. And I want to do this for everybody, right? These are things meaning that we're experiencing because of this that would not have happened otherwise. I know people are calling older people in their lives, grandparents, much more often than they did before. These are pieces of meaning, okay? And I see some of you are writing to accept the challenge. We don't have kids for 13 years. I'm sorry, Rifki. I'm sorry. That's a huge challenge to accept. Huge challenge. But it's an unbelievable time that you're using to accept that. Unbelievable. Rifki, Hashem should give you the biggest bracha, and he should shower you with blessing and goodness, and with a house full of children and laughter and connection and love from this moment on. And you should be able to appreciate all the bracha that you're given, okay? In the schus of you working on that and finding your moment of growth in the pain, turning to growth instead of stress. That should be a big schus for you, Rifki. Your boys are getting along much better. They don't have anyone else to play with. I love that. That's incredible. My boys too. And I didn't think of that. I love it. I love it. She said her boys are getting along better. There's no choice. They can't just run each with their friends. They have each other to play with. They got to make it work. That's incredible. Hershko catering, listening to you. Oh, I love you. Thank you. I also love that you're listening to me. How awkward would it be if I would stand up here and talk and nobody would be here? Thank you. The birds are chirping louder than they were before because we don't have all the noise outside. You don't hear planes going by so often. I feel like the earth is healing. Like the world just needed to stop for a moment and let the earth breathe a little bit. Right? Okay, so now I want to, I'm glad everybody said amen. Okay, so much more time with the kids, playing with them instead of the gym, exercising myself. You're on the trampoline, jumping with them daily. Nechama, I love that. Family connection. Yes, yes, yes. All of these are incredible. You told your kids what you spoke about and appreciating every breath of air. Amazing. Don't forget that. Don't forget. Every breath of air is a bracha. Every single one. People, we take it for granted. Look how many people right now don't have that. Okay, great. So now let's understand one thing, and I want to finish up. I think we have about 15 minutes left on the live. 20. We have 20 minutes left. We're good. Okay. Okay. Oh, Bella just said you and your husband are now alone, learning to live in a quiet house. That's a huge adjustment also. Great. All of these things we're finding the meaning in everything. Okay. So how do we find the meaning? Let's continue on a little bit. And how does this relate to Pesach? How can we take this home with us? So we were speaking about how how our emotions need to have motion. We need to keep them moving. They can't be stagnant. They can't just sit there, and we can't allow them to suck us up. We got to take control. We got to move over here with them. So let's understand a little bit. We spoke about yesterday very briefly. We ended the live with this concept, and I'm going to elaborate on it a little bit more now. When the Jews were told that they can leave Egypt, and the way that they left was described in the Torah with one word. The word was, anyone remember from yesterday? What was that word? Bechipazon. Can't wait because there's a delay. Bechipazon. Bechipazon means right now, immediately, this second. And this is what the Torah teaches us, that the minute they were told that it's time to go, they had to leave. We know the classic literal translation understanding of why we eat matzah, because they didn't even have time to bake the bread, okay? That's actually much deeper than that we can't go into right now, but I'm going to see if we can have a chance to get into that whole concept even further. But they had to leave so quickly, they didn't even have a chance to bake the bread. And we're taught that after they left, that if they would not have left Bechipazon, it was great that they left Bechipazon immediately on the spot. Thank you, Hershkowitz Catering, very good. I forgot what your first name is. I remember you told me once, but I forgot. Can you remind me? If they would not have left that second on the spot when they were supposed to, listen to this. You need to listen to this because this is going to blow your mind. Ready? Had they not left at that exact second, they would not have been worthy of leaving at all. What? If they wouldn't have left that second, if they would have just said, okay, whoa, thank you, we're free, but 1 second, I just want to finish my puzzle. I have like 10 pieces left in this puzzle. Or let me just finish baking my bread. I have the dough. I can just put the bread in the oven. 20 minutes, it's done. If they would have waited, or if they would have said, okay, great, I'm so excited, thank you, gratitude, all of that, affirmations, but great, let me pack up, let me prepare, let me clean the house a little, whatever, I'll leave soon. Why would they not have been worthy of leaving? And that means we never would have left. We would have still been there now. I mean, if we'd still be alive. We'd be living in Egypt now, guys. We'd be wearing burqas. What would your Egyptian name be? My name would be Yafa Dinijad or something. Imagine we'd still be in Egypt. Why? Why would they not have been worthy of leaving? And Rashi explains, they were on the 49th level of tumah, of impurity. So as you know or may not know, there are 50 levels of purity in the world and 50 levels of impurity in the world. Always was, always is. I don't even want to know what level we're on right now. No idea. But at that time, when the Jews left Egypt, they were on the 49th level of impurity. 49th level. And had they stayed a minute longer, they would have fallen down to the 50th level of impurity, which is crazy if you think about it, because they were in Egypt for over 200 years, 210 years. But who's counting? 210 years they were there. Really? One more minute of being influenced by the Egyptians would have put them down to an entire different spiritual level. They were there for over 200 years. They didn't manage to get to the 50th level. One more minute, the influence would have been that strong. Good question, Yafa. Right? How do we understand this? Here's the thing. This was not an external influence that they were afraid of. It was an internal influence. It was internal. Nothing to do with the Egyptians. Let's try to understand this, and I'm going to explain this quickly before the live is over. Purity and impurity. How do we understand that? We, as Jews, understand purity and impurity maybe a little more than the rest of the world, and especially as Jewish women, right? When we think of purity and impurity, right away we think of nida, taras hamishpacha. These are things we're familiar with, but do we really understand the concept? So the first thing I want to explain is that purity and impurity, these are spiritual concepts. It's not physical. So it has nothing to do with physical cleanliness or physical dirt. Nothing to do with that. This is spiritual. What is the greatest source of purity in this world? The greatest source of purity is life. Any sort of life, you bring life into the world. Greatest source of purity. So what's the greatest source of impurity? Death, or the loss of life, or the lack of life, right? So when do we experience spiritual purity and impurity? So one example would be, you go to a funeral, you go to a cemetery. What do you do before you leave? You wash your hands. We have to wash our hands to bring back that purity again, because we experienced impurity by being in close proximity with a dead body, with a body that had a loss of life. Another example, when you wake up in the morning. You wake up in the morning, what's the first thing we do? No, check WhatsApp. What do we do after that? Go wash our hands. We wash our hands. Why do we wash our hands in the morning? Shouldn't check WhatsApp first, by the way. Why do we wash our hands? Because when you are asleep, you are 1/60th dead. There is a level of soul that goes up to heaven and comes back down in the morning. So in the morning, we got to wash our hands to bring back that state of spiritual purity. Now, why is it water? That is always what brings us back, right? Because we have nida also, which we'll get to right now. Why is it always water? Water that brings us back to purity. Again, long story that we can't get into right now. We will be talking about this, by the way, when we start our series of Living on Purpose after Pesach, Be'ez Hashem, our Zoom series that I'll still be talking to you about. We're going to get into the whole concept of this, okay? But why is it water? Water is the only physical element that actually comes from heaven. Every other physical element in this world comes from the earth, comes from the ground, comes from the physical world. Water comes from heaven. It has a spiritual component in it. So that's why we use water to purify us when we're spiritually impure. So the next example is nida. Every month when a woman gets her period, why does that make her spiritually impure? Because there was potential for life that is now lost. That could have been life inside of her, and now it's lost. So that's spiritual impurity. And then a bigger example is after birth. After a woman gives birth, why is she spiritually impure? You would think the opposite. She just brought the greatest level of purity into the world. She just created life. We said life is the greatest form of purity. She brought life into the world. Why is she spiritually impure? Because yes, she brought life into the world, and by doing that, by the way, she elevated the level of purity in the world. She elevated it by bringing that life into the world. But that life was inside of her for 9 months. And now that life is gone from inside of her. So she's experiencing a personal loss of life that was inside of her and no longer is. And here, really what I think, between you and me, there's no major scientific research done over here, my own research, my own understanding is that when you most women experience some sort of down after they give birth. Now, I'm not referring to anything more extreme, anything clinical, any, real serious depression or anxiety. I'm talking about the regular baby blues that we go through. Every woman experiences this at some point. You can be on the biggest high after birth, and then a day or two later, you're on a down, right? This is very common, very normal. And I really think that this is a spiritual down. We're feeling that loss. It's coming from this loss of life that was inside of us. And of course, we know all the dimensions are connected, the spiritual, the emotional, intellectual, physical, it's all connected. And it comes out somatically, in every area of life, it's all connected. So this is what we're experiencing, because there's a loss of life within her, even though she created life in the world. So this is how we understand purity and impurity. And I want to take it to the next level so we can understand a little deeper and how this can be practical for us right now as well, in every day, because we're not giving birth every day, right? And you're not becoming a nida every day, right? So how do we understand this on a practical level also? Here's what we need to understand. It's not only about birthing a child that creates life. First of all, what happens if somebody can't birth a child? Or what happens if somebody doesn't get married? Or what happens if, there could be so many other questions about how can I bring purity into the world if I've never given birth or had a child? Here's what we need to understand. It's not only biologically birthing a child. First of all, giving life is so much deeper than just giving physical life. You can give somebody life even without birthing them. You can give somebody quality of life. You can build somebody up. Any parent, whether you birthed a child, adopted a child, whether you're a teacher, whether you are a human being, and you have an opportunity to impact someone, anyone, you can give life to everyone and anyone. You can compliment somebody. When is the last time? And some of you might answer 5 minutes ago, right? When's the last time you gave somebody a real compliment? And it's hard these days. We're living with our families, and it's hard to focus on their strengths and on their goodness so much, so often. So sometimes we're forgetting to compliment them. Let's remember to compliment our spouses, our children, our parents, our siblings. Give somebody a real sincere compliment. Don't just say, oh, that was nice. Or don't say, you're amazing. That's nice too. A sincere compliment means finding something specific. That was so special when you, whatever. Wow, look how amazing you are at whatever. A real compliment. This is how we give life to people. And when we give life to people, we give life to ourselves also. We bring life into the world. We bring purity into the world. This is how we do it. We could create people's quality of life. One compliment can make their day, can make their week, can make their month. One beautiful thing. And unfortunately, we can also create impurity in the world the same way. Instead of building people up and creating life, we can knock them down and take away their quality of life. And we create impurity in the world. This is how we do it. And the way that Hashem deals with us, sometimes we say, what can I do? How can I make a difference in the world? The world is so much bigger than me. What can I do? Or how can I make a difference? We want to be vessels for change. We want to be agents for change. And especially now when we have to change and we should be changing, right? How can we do it? How can I make a difference, little me in this world? This is how we can make a difference. Because the way Hashem deals with the world is based on the way we invite him into the world. The way that the energy that we put into the world is the way Hashem deals with us. When we're putting energy of purity in the world, energy of life, of growth, then Hashem says, oh, I'm going to deal with life and growth. with blessing, with purity. But when we put an energy of stagnation, or even worse, lack of life, we take away the quality of life, when we put in an energy of dormancy, when we stop growth, Hashem says, that's how I have to deal with the world now. We get to choose. Are we going to put light into the world? Or are we going to put darkness into the world? Are we going to put purity into the world or impurity? So what's life? Life means growth. Life means movement. Growth. Make other people grow. Make other people big. Make other people move in the best way possible. Life is growth. Death is dormancy, lack of growth, destruction. That's purity and that's impurity. Now let's put all this together. It's got a few minutes left in the live. Let's understand this. What would have been the reason that the Jews would not have been worthy of leaving Mitzrayim? It wasn't an external influence. It wasn't the Egyptians. It wasn't the influence of them. It would have been the internal influence. It would have been the procrastination. If they would have said, oh, wait, I could go. Thanks, I'm free. All right, I'll leave tomorrow. I'll leave when I can. I'll leave when I'm ready to leave. They would have procrastinated. Procrastination, lack of movement, lack of growth, stagnation, dormancy. All of that is impurity. That's impurity. And we cannot grow with impurity. We grow through purity. We grow through life. We grow through movement. That's b'chipazon, movement, growth, life. That's how we rise to higher levels in life, in every area. And this is what we need to understand about how our emotions work too. We've got to take the emotions and give them life. What does it mean to give the emotions life? It doesn't mean to get inside them and give them the power. We can't give the emotions power. That's dormancy. That's where we get sucked into them and there's no movement. We take the power. We say, okay, sadness, great. Welcome to my life. I got you. We got this. We're moving upward right now. We're moving up. We're focusing on the meaning of life. We're focusing on the things that are going right. Come on, sadness. Come with me for the ride. We're going to focus on our blessings right now. We're going to focus on who we are, what we could contribute to the world, to life. And we're doing it b'chipazon. We're doing it right now. We're going to grow. We're going to move. And that's when we say emotions need motion. The emotion can't do anything by itself. Even the emotion doesn't want to be stuck where it is. The emotion needs us. Feelings need us. Feelings need the cerebral aspect to help them move. They can't go anywhere by themselves. They need us. They need us to jump in and say, all right, we got this. We're moving. We're going somewhere. We're going to win. We're going to own this. And that is one of the most important lessons of Pesach. B'chipazon, creating life, creating movement, creating growth within ourselves, taking control of our feelings, moving, taking control of the things we want to do. We said yesterday, getting out of that narrow mindset. Mitzrayim comes from the word tsar, which means narrow, this narrow mindset, thinking of ourselves as small, denying our greatness, being afraid of our greatness. Get out of that. Get out of that. That's what it means. Going from slavery to freedom. Going from slavery to freedom, being in our own enslavement of letting emotions control us or letting our narrow-mindedness control us. You are great. You can be so big. You can do so much. You can own your life. You could control everything that happens in your life. You could control your quality of life, and you can give life to yourself and to every single person around you. I have 1 minute left on this live, and I want to end this by reiterating and summarizing everything quickly in just a few seconds. You can create life. You can create purity. That's what true freedom is. True freedom is the ability to grow and to move, to take control of ourselves and to move with that, to build people up, to create quality of life, to create growth in every single area. That is true living. That is true purity. That is true freedom. Thank you all. Thank you to every single one of you for joining me this morning. It was a pleasure and a treat as always.